Hello. Today I'm going to tell you all about how to choose your first salon point of sale or booking software. And this is a really important decision because as a salon owner, sure, you do have quite a few impactful decisions to make on a day-to-day basis. Commission or booth rental? Are you closed on Sundays? What's your policy on stylist trading hair services? But these choices honestly pale in comparison to choosing your first salon point of sale or booking software platform. And this is a big choice, so I understand wanting to make it as quickly as possible so you can put it behind you and get back to running your salon. But the thing is, whether you wait to make a choice or you dive into making a choice without fully researching it, you might find yourself in trouble fast. You might end up stuck with a system that does way more than you need and is so complicated that you and your team can't really use it efficiently. Or you end up on the other end of the spectrum where you're using multiple apps and platforms to try to run your business, which is honestly just a waste of everyone's time. You're having to duplicate stuff in between platforms. It's not the most productive way to go about it. So today we're going to be talking about how to choose. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what features matter, which ones are worth paying for, and how to avoid expensive mistakes. And if you're wondering whether you need separate platforms or whether one can handle both your point of sale and your booking needs, you'll get an answer to that too. But first I want to talk a little more about why your first software choice matters a little more than you might think. Because as hairdressers and salon owners, we're well versed in the idea of making it work, right? No matter what challenges a given day might present, as professionals, we persevere, we forge ahead, we find a way to make the client happy. But this same approach is really ineffective when it comes to choosing your first salon point of sale or booking software. Because you see, when you piece together multiple tools just trying to make it work as quickly as possible, things get expensive fast. Between the time it takes you or your staff members to update every tool, make sure notes are the same across every platform, and creating a seamless experience for your clients, you are spending a lot more than just the monthly fees for each tool, right? And what's worse is that these problems will get more pervasive over time. The longer you try to make do with a mix of different tools, the harder it's going to be to ultimately extract that data and move it over to an all-in-one system someday. Plus, there's also the cost of training all the new staff members on your current system when they come in, and the cost to retrain everybody if you eventually do upgrade to something else. So, as a salon owner, should you start with free tools and upgrade to something paid later? This can work sometimes in very specific scenarios, such as if you're a solo stylist who doesn't yet have a really broad clientele. But in most cases, you're going to save yourself quite a bit of time, money, and headache by choosing a platform that grows with your salon to meet your needs. And speaking of meeting your needs, the first thing you have to understand here are your salon's software needs. Because if you don't have a clear picture of what features are important and what you don't really need, you're likely to end up with something more expensive and more complicated, or even worse, something that doesn't do a core function of your business. And these needs are going to look a little bit different just depending on what your business setup is, right? So if you are a solo stylist or a single chair, your must-have features are going to include a simple booking system, client-specific notes that can be updated over time, and mobile payment processing, because most solo stylists do find it easiest to just collect payment through their phone. These three features are going to address your biggest needs without any expensive, unnecessary bells and whistles. But there are also a few more features you might want to consider even as a solo stylist, and those are automated appointment reminders, basic sales and revenue reporting, retail and inventory sales and records. And then that brings us to budget, what you want to pay for these features. At this stage, anything above $50 a month, $50 a month, is likely providing features that you just don't want or need right now. Plus, the more you spend on running your salon, so the more you spend on your software, the more clients you need to see every single month to cover your costs. And that can get stressful really fast. As a solo stylist, especially if you're just starting out, you're going to want to look for salon point of sale or booking software that meets these needs, has these features at a really workable price point. The next tier up would be if you are a small team. I'd say that's about 2 to 6 chairs. And if you are a small team with an employee model specifically, as opposed to a booth rental model. So if you're in this scenario, the must-have features that you're going to need for your software are staff permissions, so each team member has their own account and privileges, a shared calendar for all stylists so that any stylist or receptionist can see everyone's availability at a glance. You're going to need commission tracking, and you're going to need product inventory tools. The critical considerations with this also is to make sure that team communication is simple and that all team members have schedule visibility. That doesn't mean that your software needs to have a built-in, like chat function for the stylist, but it is ideal if there's something where everyone can see all the days everyone's working, and that way if someone needs to find coverage for a shift, at a glance they can see who's available and who they can get in touch with. That's what I mean by making sure that team communication is simple and that you have schedule visibility for everyone. And then depending on how your salon operates, a few other nice to have features would be gift card functionality, customizable reports so each staff member can see their product sales or service sales from any given period of time, and online booking for clients to schedule their own appointments. That's going to save you all so much time. A good budget for this size of salon with this suite of features is usually going to be $100 to $300 a month, depending on which specific features you need. The more you need, the more you're going to spend. And the last model I want to talk about is a chair rental or booth rental model. If you've decided on setting up your salon this way, you're going to have some unique needs that other salons just don't have to consider. But that's okay. We're going to do the same thing and identify the must-have features, and there are plenty of options out there that can do this for you. So your must-haves are going to be payment processing for each individual stylist, separate client lists for each individual stylist, and private notes and formulas for each individual stylist. Other features that are almost definitely going to benefit your daily operations as a booth rental salon are online booking and scheduling, so clients can handle that themselves, automated client communication, meaning automatic text or email reminders for appointments, and then reporting and analytics for each stylist so that everyone can manage their business efficiently. And there's a bit of a pricing trap when you have this model that you need to be aware of. Some platforms are going to charge you a flat fee per location, which is great. Others are going to charge you a per stylist fee, and that can add up very quickly to be a major expense if you're not careful. So I highly recommend that you look for software that has flat rate or per location pricing. You also want to keep front of mind as you're looking at all these different options that the software has to be able to keep clients and payments separate, since this really is multiple businesses running out of one salon at the end of the day. Now, with all of that said, there are, I would say, 8 crucial features that you're going to want for your first salon software, kind of regardless of the size of your salon or how many people you have working under you. So let's go through those now. The first one is that you are really going to want online booking without client login required, because online booking has revolutionized our industry in a great way, but we all know it doesn't always work perfectly, right? Clients hate friction, is what it comes down to. And if they have to do any tedious work, like creating an account, making up a new password, resetting that password, they're much less likely to finalize that booking. So as you're looking at different software options, check to see if the booking process for any of the things you're considering requires clients to create accounts, or if they can just type in their email address or phone number and the system does the rest. You also want to look at just how easy the process is in general. If they do have to reset their password, is that simple? You want to avoid any platform that feels sluggish, complicated, or dated, because if it's confusing to you, it's gonna be confusing and frustrating to your clients. You don't want that. Number 2 is going to be that you need integrated payment processing with deposit tracking, because there are few things worse than when a client's paid deposit doesn't sync with your point of sale or your booking software, right? So you're going to need an integrated system that tracks both deposits and the final payments. Any platform that asks you to do manual reconciliation of deposits is going to cause you some headaches and potentially some negative reviews, honestly. Next up is that your software really needs to have client profiles with history, notes, and formulas. Because having a visit history for each client honestly can supercharge your salon business, speaking from experience. Whether you're keeping track of formulas for color clients, or haircut notes at a barbershop, or even just a history of past product purchases, this information is gold. And bonus points if you find a system that allows photo uploads, because a picture says 1,000 words, right? Number 4 is going to be a shared staff calendar with built-in conflict prevention. Said a different way, you really are going to need real-time syncing across your shared staff calendar. If you don't have this, schedule conflicts and double bookings can kind of run rampant in the blink of an eye. This feature is also going to prevent 2 clients from booking the same slot, one of the most awkward things you can have to deal with in a salon. Don't want to deal with that if we can avoid it. And if you opt for a platform that gives team members mobile access, like they can just log in via their phones, keeping the books organized is going to be that much easier for everyone involved. Number 5 that you're going to want is automated text reminders and client communication. Automated appointment reminders can slash your no-show percentage by up to 50%, according to recent data, which is huge. And you get to slash that without having to pay a receptionist to play phone tag with people all day. Most platforms these days also allow you to customize your reminder message so it feels warm, friendly, and really sounds like the branding of your salon. I also recommend looking for anything that has two-way messaging. This keeps your stylist's personal phone numbers protected while allowing them to converse with clients about upgrading their services, making sure some retail that they want to buy is in stock, anything that is just good information to have in advance, right? Number 6 is digital intake forms that can then be associated to client profiles. Because honestly, with DIY hair color and just doing hair at home being more popular than ever, these intake forms and waivers are a must-have. You gotta have these on file. At the same time, it's really frustrating to start an appointment late because someone's got pages of paperwork to fill out because you're concerned about melting their hair, making sure you give them what they signed up for. So you want to look for digital intake form functionality so that clients can complete these before they even arrive for their appointments. Number 7 is waitlist management for last-minute openings, because nobody likes a gap in the middle of their workday, especially when it's eating into your paycheck. But taking the time to manually text clients to fill cancellations in between appointments also takes up a lot of time and energy. So you're going to want to look for software that has automatic waitlist client notification so that they get added to the waitlist, and if something becomes available, they're notified and booked without anybody from your team having to pick up the phone or stop what they're doing to get in touch with that client. And number 8 is going to be basic reporting, even if you're a solo stylist, even if you don't think you need it. Because honestly, at the end of the day, you can't grow something if you're not measuring it. So you want to pick a platform with basic reporting. The 3 key ones that I think you should look for when you're starting out are reports that show you revenue by service, client retention, and staff performance if you have a staff that's working with you. These reports are also a lifesaver during tax season. You just press a few buttons and then you've got it to load up into your tax software, give it to your accountant, and you don't have to spend hours and days chasing receipts down anymore. So now that you know a bit about what to keep in mind for specific salon sizes and the 8 key features that are a must-have no matter what size you are, we can take a quick glance at some specific salon software that I have personal experience with. And the 4 that we're going to look at today are Square Salon Software, Vagaro, Mangomint, and Boulevard. Let's dive in. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at here is Square. Square honestly has been around for a long time, and they have been really building out their features for beauty salons and anybody in the beauty industry over the past few years, which is awesome to see. That said, I do find that this one is best for solo and micro salons because it doesn't have quite as many features and functionalities as some of the other ones we're going to look at do. In terms of costs for this one, the pricing is really competitive. It starts out at $0, and you can pay more to upgrade it depending on what else you need. So, as you can see here, this free one that you can start with is $0 per month per location. It allows you online booking site and integrations with other payment processors, other standard kind of marketing apps that you might use. You can set it up to do appointment reminders, and you have unlimited calendars, which means that say you are all booth renters, you can each have your own separate calendar to book your appointments, which is pretty handy. You can also upgrade, and for $49 a month per location, you get things like a cancellation policy and no-show fees that get automatically charged. You get multi-staff appointment booking, and since you do have to pay for that, this is one reason that I think it's better for solo and micro salons. And you also get one of those waitlist features. As you keep going up, you get more reports, more tracking, and more management. So, great place to start if you're solo or have, I'd say, probably up to 2 staff. That would be a good fit there. You should also know that there is a fee for payment processing with these. So I believe it's any in-person transaction is going to cost you 2.6% of that transaction plus 15 cents. And that is pretty standard for what a lot of the other things we're going to look at today do as well. In terms of other features that this one has, it does offer no login booking, so clients can book an appointment with you without having to set up a whole account, which is great. They have pretty limited options for deposit tracking. If you do a lot of deposit collecting, this might be not the best choice to start with, honestly. For client formula storage, it gives you really basic notes, a very simple field. It's not the most robust in terms of being able to edit, add, and see a past history. It does have the calendar, like we talked about, included for one person for free. You can pay to get the automated reminders set out if you want to move up to a higher tier. And then at the base, the free price, you do not get digital intake forms or a waitlist feature. They do have very limited membership management options with this one, but again, I would say if you are a salon that does a lot of spa memberships, for example, this is going to be a little bit clunkier than something truly designed to run that. The reporting depth you can get on this is pretty basic. You can get those 3 basic ones that I mentioned, but anything more than that, and you're going to have to pay extra. All of that said, the learning curve is pretty small. This is a very easy, intuitive software to learn. It's going to feel very similar to, honestly, just about any other point of sale system that you might have used in a past job or that your staff might have used in past jobs. There's also no minimum contract length with this. You can go month to month, you can cancel whenever you want, you're not locked in. So now, let's look at Vagaro. So in terms of pricing for Vagaro, it is a little bit of a step up from Square, but not by a whole lot. They also customize it a little bit depending on how many stylists, how many locations. So I would say that this one is best for small teams who are on a budget. As your team starts to grow, this is going to be less of a cost-effective choice. As you can see here, right? 1 location, 1 stylist, $23.99 a month. Not bad. But once you get up to 6 stylists or 7 or more, you're hitting a lot more just for that 1 location. Multiple locations, you have to contact them to get pricing on. So that's something to be aware of too if you're thinking that you want a multi-location model at some point in the near future or even distant future and you want to go with Vagaro. Be aware that they do not publish that pricing and you might have to get in touch with them to find that out. In terms of the payment processing fees, these guys are very similar to Square. You're going to pay 2.6% on any in-person transaction plus 10% per transaction. One thing with this one that is a bit of a drawback for me is that they do not have no login booking. A client will have to make an account or log into an existing account in order to book an appointment. That said, I do find this to be one of the more seamless ones. I think we've all been in that position where you hit forgot password and then it doesn't send you the right one and you get caught in that loop of trying to reset and get the right thing until you get so frustrated that you just kind of give up. Vagaro is very smooth with that, and I have not personally had or heard of anyone having issues in that regard, which is nice. This one is also going to give you deposit tracking, client formula storage that's a little more in-depth than Square will give you. It's got the calendar for as many stylists as you need, as you can see. And in terms of other features, we've got a lot of good stuff here in terms of other features too. So your salon is bookable 24/7 because it's got those online booking functionalities. You can optimize your schedule with their smart calendar control options that help you avoid gaps in your day, salon inventory tracking, no show and cancellation policies. Vagaro, though it can get expensive if you have a big team or multiple locations, is really, really solid if you have a small size team who know what they want, who just want something that works and is relatively seamless for both the users and the clients. The learning curve on this one, for me, I felt was just a little bit steeper than Square. It's not that it's unintuitive, it's just that it can do so much more than Square that learning about the various reports and functionalities, there were a few times where we discovered that Vagaro did things and said, no one even told us we had that option. I had no idea we were paying for that. So kind of a double-edged sword. It's good overall, but make sure you know what you're paying for and using it to the fullest, right? Another thing I like about this one is that the contracts are also month to month, so you can cancel basically any time and go to the end of that month or wherever your contract renews in that month, rather than having a sticky year-long contract that you have to cancel or anything like that. Now, Mangomint is one that a lot of people are familiar with these days, and I find that it really works best for growing salons that are actively trying to level up their marketing, how many clients are coming in the door, maybe another location, or just hiring new stylists at the current location. Mangomint is really good for kind of growing and adapting with the various phases of growing a salon. So in terms of cost here, it's going to start at $165 a month with the essentials. That'll give you up to 10 service providers, which is great, unlimited SMS and email notifications. You can send as many automated reminders as you want, and they also let you add things on, which is really nice. If you've got one or two features that you want to add to the essentials package, but not enough that it's worth bumping up to the standard package, you can typically just add those things a la carte, and that's a really nice feature. And then in terms of the transaction fees on this one, they're going to charge you 2.45% of every transaction plus 15 cents of every transaction. So again, pretty comparable to Square and Vagaro at the end of the day. Other things that I like about this one is that it does have the no login booking, which is super slick. It's got great deposit tracking. It can store client formulas, past visits, product purchases, all of that good stuff. It's got a staff calendar so that everybody can see at a glance what everyone's schedule looks like. You can also customize the view to show a couple stylists or whoever's working that day if you want. Automated reminders, like we said, of course, are built in. And they also have functionality for digital intake forms, a waitlist, and membership management. You will see here that, for example, the waitlist and the membership management are part of the higher tier. But again, you can kind of tinker with these. There are, for the most part, endless combinations of how you can set this up so that it works for your salon and what you truly need. The reporting depth on this one is also really great. Mangomint was made for salons as opposed to being adapted to salons after the fact, like Square was, for example. And so the types of reports that you can get are super in-depth and very intuitive as to what you would actually need. I find that with Square, for example, sometimes you have to run a report and then another report to actually get the data you're looking for, whereas Mangomint, you can just, for the most part, tell it, I want to see this for this time or this day, and it'll give it to you really easily. I love that. The learning curve on Mangomint, I find it to be about the same as Vagaro, honestly, because it can do a little bit more even than Vagaro. Certain staff members, if they aren't, familiar with any other point of sale system, might need a little bit more time to get used to it. But for the most part, I would say nothing about this. You don't need to be a tech expert or even tech savvy to really be able to use this for standard stuff like checking clients in and out. One thing to be aware of here, though, is that even though they price it monthly, their contracts are typically annual. So the way they do it is they say, oh, it's this per month when you lock your price in for a year. If I remember correctly, they don't always make you do it that way, but make sure that you understand whether you are getting a true month-to-month contract or an annual contract paid monthly if you decide to go with these guys. And lastly, Boulevard. Boulevard, honestly, if it were something that could be priced appropriately for solo stylists, I would recommend it to them because it is another one that is made for salon owners, designed by people who really know salons in and out and what clients need, but also what stylists and other team members need to do their jobs effectively. So I love this one because it's got a lot of really truly smart, intuitive tools to make stylists' lives easier. So for example, this precision scheduling feature is one of my favorites. It's an algorithm that learns your clients' booking habits to offer the most efficient times for your team. But it's not just an algorithm. You can go in here and customize it as much as you want, set intervals, and even adjust the amount of appointment slots that are offered on a given day so that nobody is ever working too hard or has awkward gaps in their day. I think we've all been there where it's like you've got that 2-hour gap before your next color appointment comes in, and short of walking out to the mall and trying to convince someone to sit down and get a haircut with you, you kind of just got to live with it. And so seeing that Boulevard continues to add features like this that are truly mindful of what it takes for a stylist to grow their salon business, I just love it. I do. Now, as for pricing, this is one of the more expensive ones, which is why I do honestly recommend it more for established salons and salons that are growing. It would be great if a solo stylist could do one of these, but this is designed for teams typically, as opposed to just one stylist, and the pricing for it really makes it make sense for true stylist teams. So per month, typically it's going to be $176 for the essentials, $293 for Premier, and then the top tier package is normally $410 per month. As for payment processing, it starts at just a flat 2.65%, no additional, 10 or 15 cent per transaction charge on top of that. But they also have options to get it down to as low as 1% if you want to chat with them during your demo to find out more about what that would look like for you. And they've done all the other smart things that I would really love to see from any salon software. So we've got no login booking for clients, deposit tracking, really in-depth client formula and notes storage, a staff calendar, automated reminders, digital intake forms, waitlist, membership management, and tons of chair rental features so that whether you are set up as a commission salon or as a chair rental salon, you're going to be able to make this work for you really seamlessly. I also find that Boulevard has the most advanced reporting options and the highest tier of customer support. I feel like the people behind Boulevard just really are connected with what it's like to be in a salon day to day and what it takes to not only make an experience, world class for a client, but make it something that is profitable for the stylist and makes sense for them to be offering. And then in terms of contract length, this one is usually going to be monthly or annual. You absolutely can do an annual and save a lot of money that way, but you can do the monthly as well if you want to try it out first and make sure it's for you before you lock in that annual pricing. And now before we go any further and before you start researching your own first salon point of sale or booking software options, I want to talk about, the true cost of making this choice. Because the monthly cost that you pay isn't the only fee that you're going to be paying. We talked about transaction fees for those 4 options a moment ago, but there's also hardware costs like for card readers, tablets, receipt printers, SMS fees, because even if the platform doesn't charge you to send texts, a lot of times carriers will charge you per text that you send, so be aware of that. There's training time for staff members, which you typically want to do outside of business hours so they can really fully understand the tools and how to use them. And then there's premium feature add-ons, where if you need to add something a la carte that isn't there with the base package that you've picked, that's going to add as well. Which begs the question, how do you determine if a specific platform is going to be truly worth it for you in terms of ROI? I've got a few formulas to help you with that. So the first thing you're going to do is add together the monthly software cost, the processing fees, and then the hardware cost divided by 12. That gives you the monthly thing. And then add those 3 numbers together, the monthly cost, the monthly processing fees, and what the hardware breaks down to monthly. Those added together are going to give you the total monthly cost. Next, you're going to track how much time you save in manual tasks. And you can do this as you do a free trial with any of these options, or just if you go month to month and want to try it out for a month. So track the hours that you save on those tasks, and then multiply that by what you charge hourly. That is how much more monthly value you are now able to give to your clients, and how much more money you stand to make if you book that time with clients, now that you're not using it for admin tasks. Next, you are going to take the number of bookings from the better system, and you want to be a little bit conservative with this because we know that the busy seasons fluctuate throughout the year with salons. So go conservative so you get a real number, and you're going to multiply those bookings times your average service price. That is going to show you how much additional revenue you stand to gain. And then with all of these numbers together, you are going to take the monthly value plus the additional revenue and see what that adds up to. If those things together add up to be more than the total monthly cost you calculated in the first formula, then it is worth it. You are making more money than you are spending having this software. If the monthly value added to the additional revenue is less than the monthly cost, it is literally costing you money to have this software. It's not saving you anything. The next thing I want to talk about with you is what to avoid with your first salon point of sale or booking software. You know everything about what to look for and how to determine if the price is right, but there are some red flags that can help you save some time and headache down the road. We're going to go through 5 of them. So the first one is if there's no clear pricing on the website. When software doesn't have clear pricing on its website, it usually indicates a steep price, honestly. Often you might find yourself feeling pressured into booking a demo and then saying yes on the call before you even have any kind of pricing laid out in front of you in black and white. So if you are going to explore an option that doesn't have clear pricing on the website, be sure to get that full breakdown in writing before the demo. The second thing to watch out for is long-term contracts for first-time buyers. Because as a first-time buyer, you frankly just don't have a lot of insight into your preferences yet. You need month-to-month flexibility while you learn what you actually need in order to be successful here. That said, contracts can save you money, and sometimes there are options if you don't wind up loving the software. They'll give you a year-long contract, but then the first month is seen as a trial period, something like that. So, if you're going to go for something that makes you sign a long-term contract, thoroughly read it and understand if you have any outs should the software not work for you. The next one to watch out for is poor customer service reputation. Because for your first system, one of the most important factors is being able to get support. But software websites aren't always the most forthcoming about what hour support is available, for example. And the last thing you want is not able to reach your support desk on a Saturday, the busiest day of the week, if you're having a problem, right? So you're going to want to do just a little bit of independent research on forums like Reddit and see what people say when it comes to customer service for each software. And also try not to read just one for any specific software. People are going to have good experiences and bad experiences with everything. There's going to be good days and bad days. So read a few to really get a feel for what the average customer service is like with any given platform. Number 4 is if your chosen platform requires multiple systems to function. This is just unacceptable because it's the exact same problem that you set out to solve. If you have to connect 3 or 4 different apps, especially while paying for any of them, how is that any better than doing the same with free platforms? You want to start with an all-in-one that can handle bookings, payments, and client notes so that none of you are having to move things over or copy notes into something else. The last thing is you really don't want anything with a dated interface because your clients are going to hate that. Ultimately, your appointment booking page is part of your brand. It's how you make a good first impression on potential clients. If they feel like the system is clunky, confusing, or dated, they're going to click the back button and find a different salon to visit. So if you find yourself doing a free trial or watching a demo and thinking it looks clunky, your clients are probably going to feel the same way, and you want to really think carefully about that. Now, with all of this said, I'd like to give you a little action plan to set you up for success as you go through this process. So, before you buy, what you're wanting to do is take the free trial or demo and really take it seriously. Test it with real scenarios you regularly experience. Try to sit down and think about what a typical booking and ring-up process looks like, and then apply that to the trial or the demo. Then, if you work with other stylists, have at least one of them test it to get a different perspective. You might love everything and they might find a glaring issue that would have been catastrophic if you've moved forward. So, second set of eyes, always a good option if possible. And then lastly, book yourself a few test appointments as if you were the client. See how that feels for you to interact with the software from the client's side, because again, if it's frustrating for you, it's going to be frustrating for them. Once you've chosen one and you're trying it out, in your first week specifically, what you're going to do is import existing clients and their notes and formulas, set up all the services that you offer with realistic timing so you can start booking them, block out personal time and breaks on the appointment calendar for all of the staff, configure the automated reminder messages to truly sound like your salon brand, test the checkout process from end to end, not just with services, but retail products and gift cards if you're going to be offering those. Beyond that first week, if you have a team that you need to train, remember to schedule dedicated training time outside of business hours so they can really have time to focus on learning the system. You're going to want to create a few simple how-to guides for common tasks like collecting payment and rebooking appointments. A lot of the time, softwares have these guides already pre-made, so you can also download them instead of writing it yourself. And then lastly, decide if you or anyone on your team wants to be what we call the power user. That's the person who stays in the loop on new features and updates and really knows the ins and outs of the system. And that's it. Ultimately, choosing your first salon point-of-sale or booking software comes down to 3 factors: your business model, your must-have features, and your budget reality. I recommend that you start by picking your top 2 platforms based on everything you've learned from this video. Sign up for free trials or demos, fully utilize them by booking test appointments, processing sales, and having your team try the checkout process. You'll know which system feels right quicker than you might expect. And I would say the single most important factor when choosing your first salon software is integration. Everything working together in one place eliminates so much chaos from juggling multiple systems, and it also creates the professional client experience that's going to keep your calendar full. And the last takeaway I would give you is you do not need the most expensive platform on day one. You need the right platform for where you are right now with room to grow. So start with a solid trial, and you'll thank yourself later when you're running a smooth operation instead of fighting your software.